Now that UFC 314 is wrapped up and we've had time to reflect on things, it's safe to say that this event delivered. The event was filled with fun fights, brutal finishes, and even the decisions that we did see were not painful. There were a couple strange stoppages, like with the Darren Elkins absorbing too much damage from Julian Erosa, to the Danny Ige getting a last minute, kind of semi-debated stoppage over Sean Woodson. I didn't love the way either of those stoppages happened, but I always see mixed reviews online one way or the other. And I even saw that Danny Ige was up 2-0 on the scorecards before getting the finish, which I thought was much worse than the actual stoppage itself. But either way, both fights were entertaining. Loved watching all four of those fighters anytime they're in the cage, so really good. Now, we got a new generation on the rise with Chase Hooper beating Jim Miller here. I mean, that was a pretty fun fight. You know, this is two fan favorites going at it, and it's hard to see either of these guys lose. We saw some really good improvements from Chase Hooper on the feet, his movement. You know, he was sticking and moving after landing. He was rolling with shots much better. I mean, he's looking better and better every time he's in the cage. And by no means is he at a championship fighter level yet, but we could see him fighting in the near future in the top 15. Jim Miller also does not look horrible for his age. And the fight mileage he's had, again, UFC 100, 200, 300, this man's been around. He's incredible. He's at this level after this long. But this fight is just what it needed to be. Good step up for Chase, good fight for Miller, and a fun fight for fans. And then what about Yan Xiaonan getting beat up here by Verna? That was nuts. She got dominated. Who saw that coming? Yan is an excellent fighter who's up there with the best in the division. She had never been dominated like that before, even against Weili Zhang. And, you know, I didn't see that coming by any means. This was Verna's coming out party for sure. And this is a theme we're going to see for the rest of the night here. This is her Magomed Ankalaev moment where you just simply cannot deny them anymore. How are you going to bet against that? Showing extreme talent at the top of the division. This is something we need. Women's MMA is getting more legitimized by the moment thanks to fights like this, where you have someone who's tested and known to be very, very good, and then someone else comes up and shows that they are even better. And then, you know, going back to that Dan Ige-Sean Woodson fight, it was a fun fight. It showed Sean's greatly improved and should be in the mix too. I mean, he looked like a sniper in there. Those shots he were landing from a distance, his movement, his boxing was crisp. He showed up better than I expected, and he did better than I expected. That's why I was kind of surprised to see the ending the way it was. And again, for anyone who didn't watch, he ate a shot, got dropped, some follow-up shots. On the way up, the ref stepped in. Kind of hard to argue too much. He ate some unnecessary shots, didn't answer. Ref stepped in. It's one of those tough moments. I saw, like I said, both sides online. But again, it was a good time. Don't want to harp on it too much. It was a fun fight. It's worth watching, especially, again, not a coming of age party here, but both fighters good. Love to see it. Now, I don't want to touch on every single fight that happened, but I do need to talk about the Bryce Mitchell-Gene Silva fight. I mean, this fight had so much on the line. With the virality of Bryce recently after some of those anti-Semitic comments that he's made, there was a lot of eyes on him, some haters, some others. Gene Silva came in and made this fight personal with promotion, making the fans interested, angry. I mean, he did so much. He had tactics. He played into stuff. The fight was important for both fighters. And I said before, the winner of this fight was really going to get a push because there was so much eyes and emotion attached to it. And that happened, and Gene delivered. He came in like a showman, styling on Bryce in every way possible, stopping almost every single takedown, hammering Bryce on the feet, dropping him, eventually submitting him. I mean, he made it look easy. Because remember, Bryce is no slouch. And seeing Gene Silva have his way with him at will, calling his shots, landing them. Bryce didn't look any worse than normal, but Gene looked on an entirely different level. And this is something I love to see. You know, you got talent, you got potential. Gene showed all of it. He looked leagues above what we expected him to be at this point. Great stand-up. We knew that. But the question was, what happens if he gets taken down and controlled on the ground? Well, he passed that test with flying colors. He showed great mix-up in abilities and skills, showmanship, everything. This man wasn't even in the top 15 before, and he looks like he's ready to jump right into the top 10. Much like Verna, this was Gene's coming out party. Amazing talent, great fight, entertaining. We might have a star in the making here. It's fantastic. So, you know, I got to talk about Yair Rodriguez beating Patricio Pitbull. It was great. I thought this fight was great when it got booked, but Yair showed once again there's levels to the sport. I mean, he had to be careful, of course. Patrici came out really trying to land that one punch knockout power, and it was very obvious. He was plotting forward, not throwing too much combinations, really looking to hit one bomb that ended it. And he did good, but Patrici showed he was just a better fighter. At one point, this fight was more of a pick'em for me, but Yair showed evolution in his game, and it keeps him in the top 5. Yair's much watched TV. He's getting better. He's staying dangerous. We just need to see him in the mix more often. And remember, Yair's been good. That's why I don't think this is a coming out party for him. This man took 2 rounds off of Holloway. That's big in itself. With that said, Pitbull has done a lot in Bellator. He's great. Even with some ring rust in his age, he showed a lot of talent tonight, and he's a great addition to the division. I'd pick him against a lot of people in the top 15, probably even a couple in the top 10. He showed great levels to this. I mean, it was awesome. In his current state, I don't think he's top 5 currently, but I don't think Yair is the top 3. And it just kind of goes to show how deep the division is, because Yair showed levels above Pitbull, and I think there's levels between Yair and a Volk, and then the question is there a level between Volk and Ilya? It's hard to say. So either way, this fight's good for the division. I'm excited to look back on this in the future to see how both do in their next couple fights. Now moving on to the co-main with Michael Chandler and Paddy Pimblett. Man, Paddy. We knew Chandler's capable of winning or losing any fight, but we've never seen him lose like this. And admittedly, Chandler looked a little slow, a little reactive compared to what we've seen before, but Paddy looked better. And each time we see him, he looks better. But man, he looks so greatly improved. It was surprising. I mean, give this man a top fight already. He was in the cage asking for Charles, Gaethje, Poirier. Give him a number 1 contender fight. It's not something I expected to say before, but he's earned it. I mean, this was incredible watching Paddy put it together, because I don't believe that he's better than Chandler in too many areas. Truthfully, I think Chandler has better wrestling, more power, better cardio. I think Paddy really only beats him in the jiu-jitsu and maybe having a little bit better of a chin, but he proved tonight that it's just not that simple, because Paddy's game plan was amazing, and a big part of it was timing, because he wasn't as explosive as Chandler. He couldn't beat Chandler to the punch, but he was landing. And, it was kill or be killed, but he wasn't too, when he landed these hard shots, he went into kill mode, but he didn't go too crazy. He stayed reserved. Again, he diffused Chandler, keeping him at distance. I mean, he diffused most of his power on the feet. I mean, Paddy looked great. So much improved. He proved a lot of people wrong. And how many more times are we going to pick against this guy? It's a tough night for Chandler, but this was a coming out party for Paddy. Crazy fight, wild sequences, and Fat Paddy pulled it off. He has now gone a lot farther than we've ever thought he would, and awesome to see new blood in the top of the division. He said earlier this week he wanted people to stop calling him a prospect and start calling him a contender, and he has done it. And lastly, going on to Volk versus Diego Lopez. This is probably a worrisome fight for anyone that's a Volk fan, because, Diego Lopez showed a lot of the same things that Poirier did. Great power puncher, really good ground game, and comes out swinging. It's a really hard fight for Volk to go against. A lot of adversity faced, but like Volk does, he showed us how great he is. He put on a GOAT level performance for sure. The big thing that I thought he did wonderfully here is his feints. They were so well measured, no wasted effort, set things up so hard that he was able to throw hard when he did. Stumbling Diego a couple times, He really capitalized. Striking was great. Clinch work was great. Ground game was good. He mixed things up well. He fought like a featherweight GOAT should. I mean, it was wonderful. And I really thought that the clinch is where Volk was going to have to be the most careful, because Diego's had so much success in there. But again, this showed there were levels to this sport. And that coachability in Volk, after he got dropped in that second round, went back to his corner and said, "What did he hit me with?" And they said, "Well, you're backing up in a straight line. You're pulling. You're not pulling to the side." He said, "All right." He went out, mostly corrected it. And again, that just showed what made Volk as good as he was in his career. Continues to be great. So, nope, we'd love to see it. And I think Diego is young. He's growing. There's a chance he's going to be champion in the future. Just not quite there yet, especially with the likes of Volk on there. Overall, great card. We needed this after a few stinkers in a row over the last few months, and we got a card that mattered for the grand scheme of things, for the division, for the organization, for these fighters. It was a card filled with fights that mattered, and they delivered. And I'll likely do a follow-up with something along the lines of, what's next for these fighters? Who would I like to see them fight next? But I want a little more time to think about that. All right.